Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel for another 1/6 scale figure unboxing and review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Michael Corleone from the Godfather series, specifically the second Godfather movie. Now this figure is based off of Al Pacino's character in that second installment, and it was created by Present Toys, which means it's an unlicensed product, so just keep that in mind. Now I'm a big fan of the Godfather movies and the gangster mafia genre, and I'm more than excited to introduce this figure into my collection. So let's just get this started by taking a closer look at the box. For the box art, there's a simple but elegant design. We have this black background covered with a gray flower pattern, and then a nice large golden yellow name centered in the middle. The name being Mike Hale instead of Michael. Again, that's because this is not a licensed figure. They also have the famous logo with the hand holding the puppet strings, and that's just symbolizing Michael Corleone being the puppet master and having complete control over the people in his empire. Lastly, they added a golden gradient border along the edge of the box just to give it a final touch of sophistication. The other four sides of the box continue with the same design and have the Present Toys logo centered into the middle of it. And then, of course, your back is going to have all of your usual company warnings. Removing the top half of the box reveals a thin piece of black foam, which, when pulled away, we can see that the figure is in there with all of the accessories and they are securely protected with some more cushioned black foam. If we remove the top layer, you can see that there is a second layer of accessories. And what we'll do is we'll just get all of the accessories laid out onto the table so we can take a closer look at everything he comes with. So here are all the extra items that are included with this figure, and we'll just start off with the biggest accessory in the box, the chair. And the chair is very similar to the one seen in the movie, and the material used is a soft and stretchy fabric that has this woven crosshatch pattern, giving it a vintage look and feel. Inside the fabric are firm blocks of foam which can be accessed through the functional zippers that are located on the back of the chair. And lastly, there's a thin cushion that just sits snug right in the middle. This is a simple but effective 1/6 scale chair. Next we have the base. Present Toys provided a lightweight oval base, solid black in color with an attached image of Michael Corleone from the second Godfather movie. Now this is just a sticker that's placed right onto the base, and weirdly enough, the image used for the sticker is not the same scene that this figure is based on. You can see that Michael is wearing a black suit in this picture because this scene was towards the end of the film after a funeral, while the suit this figure is actually wearing is seen in the beginning of the film. I guess it's not a huge deal. I mean, both images are Michael in a suit sitting in this specific chair, but it does seem like a avoidable mistake. I can only think that the reason Present Toys made this decision is because the movie provided better shots of the black suit Michael versus the gray suit Michael. I mean, they could have always just given us a black suit Michael, which would have paired well with the 1/6 scale Vito Corleone in his black suit, but that's just my 2 cents. Lastly, the base does come with a standard crotch grabber. Moving on to the hands, this figure has 3 sets of sculpted hands. A set of relaxed hands that come attached on the figure, then 2 sets of holding hands. One set is sculpted more open for holding larger items such as the bottle of whiskey, and also has sort of a trigger finger, so possibly this hand could fit a gun in it, while the other extra set are sculpted with fingers closer together for holding smaller objects such as the cigar or his sleeves. These hands are sculpted with decent detail, veins, wrinkles, fingernails, but there are some rough spots like this where the plastic wasn't trimmed down, and just a slight inconsistency with the molded shape of each set. Lastly, the skin tone used on each hand complements the head sculpt and shies away from looking obviously like plastic. Next, let's take a look at some of these smaller accessories. First, we have the standard cigarette, a brownish tan filter area with the normal white stick, and then the ash section which is painted red to give a burning effect. Then we have a gold watch sculpted with a white case and dial, and the time reads 10:06. I'm not sure if that's relevant to the movie. If you know the significance of the time, let me know. Then we have the bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey. This is sculpted to look like it's full of liquid, and they nicely wrapped around the bottle a very detailed label with tiny print that my eyes cannot read. And lastly, they provided a glass half full with some sculpted liquid, or half empty depending on what type of person you are. All these accessories are pretty well made and pair well with each other and this figure. So here he is, Al Pacino's Michael Corleone, and he looks incredible. Starting off with the head sculpt, the face in terms of resemblance is super spot on. Present Toys created a head sculpt that really captures Al Pacino's look. They added lots of details and they shaded perfectly, giving that realistic appearance. Now, as amazing as the head sculpt looks, there are some quality issues. The paint bleeds around the ears, and there's a decently noticeable seam that just stretches from one side of the head to the other. All in all, the head sculpt is probably still the strongest piece for this figure. Now moving down to the outfit, this is a pretty well fitted suit. It's not baggy or too tight, though I will say the pants are slightly wrinkled, and the cuffs for the dress shirt are a tad too short. They're hidden underneath the jacket sleeves. I was able to pull them down to get that perfect length, but unfortunately when I was moving the figure around, they just slid right back up. Otherwise, besides those two issues, this suit definitely complements the body. For the top half, he's wearing a gray lightweight jacket. It consists of a single-breasted 3-button jacket with the notched lapels, a welted breast pocket, and then you have some straight flapped hip pockets. For the sleeves, there's a 3-button cuff, and then the back, you're going to have your ventless back. Underneath the jacket, he has on a white dress shirt with a long pointed collar, a front placket, and no breast pocket. He also wears a thin black tie with no tie bar or pin, and you can see that it doesn't really sit that flush with the chest. Unfortunately, it does kind of stick out, which looks a little awkward. For the lower half, Michael wears double-folded pleated trousers that have side pockets, but no back pockets. He also has this black belt on with a rounded silver-toned single-prong buckle. And then lastly, for his feet, you can see he's wearing some gray tassel loafers, and of course he's got some black socks on. I love the attention to detail that Present Toys provided for this suit. It's almost identical to the one that he wears in the movie. Unfortunately, there are some ugly seams throughout the suit, and you'll find a decent amount of loose threads. It does kind of bring the overall look down, but it's still a solid suit in my book. Now let's take a look at articulation. We'll move back up to the top to the head sculpt. And just a fair warning, before I start moving him around, the body they used for this figure is pretty awful. In terms of quality and squeakiness, it just sounds terrible moving him into different poses. So just be aware of that. But starting off with the head, it is on a fixed neck. You still get a good amount of movement. Forward, back, side to side, and then 360 rotation. For the arms, they will extend out to 90 degrees, as well as forward and back. There's a butterfly joint in the shoulder and a swivel at the upper bicep. You have a double bend at the elbow, and then your regular ball joint for your wrist. The torso is split at the diaphragm, so there's some good movement forward, back, a little side to side, and some rotation. Of course, that's all limited by the dress shirt. And then there's rotation at the waist. Then you have all the other same movements that you did in the diaphragm. For the legs, you get a 90-degree extension to the side and forward. A little movement back. There's a swivel at the upper bicep and a double bend at the knee. The ankles are on extenders, and you have a ball joint for the foot. When it comes to mobility, this figure moves pretty well, and the suit offers little resistance, which is super nice. But due to the quality of the body, any pose without a stand can be extremely challenging to acquire. So that's going to cover everything for this figure. And like all my unboxings, let me give you my final thoughts on this 1/6 scale Michael Corleone while I throw him into a few different poses. Unfortunately, when it comes to less expensive third-party figures, you tend to see companies take shortcuts, and for this figure, there are definitely a handful of issues that limit this guy from being a great Michael Corleone. The body that this figure comes with is atrocious, from the loose legs and ankles to the creaky joints and the protruding plastic edges on the hands. This is one of the worst 6-scale bodies I've ever received. Now, this issue could be just specifically one that affects me. Others might have no issues with their 6-scale body, but either way, it's a huge annoyance. Ultimately, I could just buy a different body that is better quality, pop the head sculpt on, throw the suit on, and call it a day, and that's most likely what I'll have to do, but I still shouldn't have to. Some of the other issues include the wrong image being used on the base, and the height of the chair being a tad too short. These small mistakes all lead to an underwhelming figure. But before you write off this figure, there are some areas that Present Toys did right, such as the phenomenal head sculpt and the movie-accurate suit. The chair is very ambitious and worked out pretty good, and I like the amount of accessories that they provided. So for my final verdict on this figure, I have to say that it's still a buy in my book. To my knowledge, this is the only 1/6 scale Michael Corleone on the market, and for the price you're paying and what you're getting, I think this figure gets the job done. It definitely has its faults, but at the end of the day, when you have him displayed, all those issues seem to disappear. He especially looks good when he's paired with Vito Corleone from the first Godfather movie. So we've reached the end of this review. For my next video, I'll be taking a look at Vito Corleone from The Godfather. It's only fitting with how much I've talked about him in this review. So keep a lookout for that video, and like always, thank you guys for joining in, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.